All right, heading into week 3, we got 6 practices under our belt, and I think 2 weeks in, you certainly sense some progress. But I think as a head coach, you see that we got a long ways to go still. A lot of young guys out there making plays, but also learning what being consistent is all about, and I think that's just part of spring ball. That's why going back to maybe that conversation a week or two ago about why is spring ball important. I think it's playing out on a daily basis. Our guys need to learn by doing through this stretch, and learning by doing is making mistakes and learning again what consistency means. So feel good about it. I know skill wise, receiver, DB, are two positions that I think we have plenty of question marks with. Between Taco and Caden Dowler, those they probably return the most experience as far as guys you just know I think you'll be able to count on. But I think on the offensive side, Jacob Trimble's played some. He had an injury-filled second year this past year, and really has had a good off season. And I think he started off spring really strong. Javante King's been a guy that's been on the outside looking in, but Javante's continued progression. And then I think 2 true freshmen, Dane Steele and Jabez Woods, have looked good as well. Of note, we did move Jordan Reed to receiver over the weekend, and I think Jordan is certainly in the mix at quarterback. This isn't a sign that he couldn't have made it at quarterback. I think it's more a sign that, hey, we got to figure out a tall athlete like him, if he can do this at receiver. And I think one day into it, like what we saw, but that's just one day. So I think Jordan will be an interesting. What his progression looks like over the next 3 weeks will be real interesting, and excited about that move. I know he is as well. On the defensive side, Taki Aluilakepa, Taden Gray played a bunch last year, and I think they've picked up right where they left off. Those guys both at times played significant roles through the course of that season, and I've been pleased with how they've continued to develop in the weight room, develop within the scheme, and just continue to both mature as young guys now going into the third year. Corner position, Takari Carr has been in our program for several years, and I think he's made a jump now. He's been on the outside looking in as far as being a regular. He's played some, but I'm pleased with where he's at. And then that true freshman group between Jace McMillan, Carson Williams, and Seth Johnson, those 3 in particular, I think we're all going to play a factor at the corner position. So just want to throw those names. I think those are all guys that we're really watching intently, and 2 weeks in, on top of the several months into this calendar year, I think they've all done a good job, and we'll need them to continue to improve as the weeks roll on.
I think Jody also mentioned Taden Gray as kind of one of the what about him kind of stands out?
Well, I think Taden has he's got tremendous athleticism, and he's got really good instincts. And he was this guy that he didn't really play high school football as a senior. He made a transfer, was deemed ineligible because of the transfer, nothing to his doing. So hadn't played a lot of football, and he came in here, I think, showing that was a little raw, and we redshirted him, and again, he flashed at times. And I think last year, getting out there on the field was a big step for him, and he did some really good things. He's been a guy that the talent hasn't been the question. It's been the consistency, and I think he's really demonstrated that over the first couple weeks. It's my hope that we get to August and we have him slated as a starter. I think he's got that kind of ability, and that's going to come with his continued just improvement, but just overall, just I guess mastery of what we're doing, and then that consistency piece.
As far as moving Jordan to receiver, is that something you guys have thought about for a while? Is that a recent decision?
Well, it kind of developed on Friday, honestly. I think you're sitting there with quarterback, something's got to give, and obviously we're bringing Justin into the situation here in the summer, and I think it was a conversation that Pete and I had, Sturbeck, and he started thinking, well, if we're going to do something like that, when is the right time? And it wasn't that he was out of the quarterback race necessarily, but he was he wasn't at the top of that race. That's the way things finished last fall too. So um, made the decision to say if we have something there, let's not try to kick this down the road to find out in the summer, find out in fall camp. Let's see at receiver with his size and athleticism, he could be something there. So let's try to find that out in the spring, and again allow for the quarterback piece between probably between Chance and Patrick in particular, and allow River to get more reps through the spring, and then we add Justin to the mix this summer. That'll be an ongoing deal, but just I think we felt good enough about that we could move down this road, Jordan.
What are your overall thoughts on Pro Day on Friday to have everyone back in Bozeman and a pretty great day from
Yeah, it was. I think the first thing we were about 3 months removed from that game down in Frisco to have the guys back. A few of them have been back for some weeks. A few have been back for some time. We had a bunch of other seniors that hadn't been back. So to get those guys back, I think first and foremost, it was great. Such a meaningful class, such a great group of men, that will do really well in whatever they choose to do. And I know some are choosing going after the NFL first and foremost. And I thought they all did really well. And I think it was a matter of those guys maybe being around one another again, pushing one another, that probably allowed for that performance to be what it was. So I'm excited for a couple weeks down the road to see what the next step's going to be. I think for them, this is a big hurdle to cross. Meaning, you want it to be about football, but for the last couple months, it's been about that day and what I can do to train so I can do my very best that day. And I think they were all comfortable with what they put on display, and now it can be about football again. So I'm hopeful that they all get opportunities to take it to that next level and show what they can do in a camp.
Yeah, and then Tommy's switch from quarterback to receiver. Just what's your confidence in him and his ability at the next level?
Well, I think he made it evident what his ability is, his talent, his numbers are. I mean, they're phenomenal, and that's phenomenal in a sport where there's all kinds of phenoms out there. He's one of them, and I wouldn't put him in any situation where I think he's going to fail. I think he's whatever he's tasked to do, he is going to figure it out. And he's mainly been testing or training for testing. So it's not like he's been training to play receiver necessarily. I think he's done some things. He's caught the ball a little bit. He's done some movements, but he hasn't even taken that training to that next step yet. I think there's a world where there's a quarterback piece in some fashion still involved with what someone would ask him to do. I think he showed that he could catch some punts. He hasn't worked on that a whole lot. I think there's a lot of things that come natural to him, but there's a work ethic that's going to allow him to take on whatever they throw at him. And I would bet on time a lot.
What kind of skill sets has he shown from you that you think maybe makes him a receiver, or why he maybe is looking at receiver?
Well, his short area quickness is exceptional. The speed is one thing. I think we all know he was really fast, and I think his quickness had showed up at quarterback for us. But to be able to navigate in the middle of the field like a slot receiver, I guess would need to. You got to have great short area quickness. I think you have to have great feel. His intelligence certainly, I believe, is exceptional. So I think all those things. I think at least to say, okay, would you bet on him? I'd bet on him. Now, is there going to be a learning curve? Is there going to be a whole new set of skills that he's going to have to learn? Whether it's getting pressed, getting covered in any which way, getting open, and what that means down the field. I think all those things come into play, but I think he's very capable of learning, and then his just physical skills and attributes. I mean, even his strength. He's 200 pounds. He's a strong guy beyond just being a quick guy. So he's quick, he's strong, he's fast, he's smart. I think he's got a lot of the things they'd be looking for.
Anybody else from that group stand out specifically? Right?
Well, I look, I won't go through everybody, but I look at Marcus. I mean, Marcus had to be like next up or right in that group of going to the combine. And, I think with the numbers that he put up, I think would prove that he was worthy of that invite. He didn't get it, so hang your head. He continued to work hard, and I think put up really good strength, explosions. Even his running was good. I thought Brody tested really well. I know Brody's a little bit lighter now. I think he's one of those guys that, what is he? Is he an outside linebacker that's going to stand up? I know he did some offensive stuff. I think he just proved again there's an explosive athlete. I think his film and everything would definitely speak for itself as a defensive end for us. But I think just as a good football player, so I think those three I think did really well, Tommy included. But then I hadn't seen Rylan Ort, so I think Rylan had a really good 3 months of training. I think Cole Sain came out and did well, and then you look at Ty and Brendan; they were here, so I've seen them quite a bit. So I think they had solid days as well, and Brendan did a lot of his work down in Indianapolis. So yeah, I think those 724 seniors that were out there, I think they're all going to get a look. Does that mean they're all going to get an opportunity? I'm not sure about that, but I think a fair amount of them will.
For the group of wide receivers this year, obviously, there's been a lot of veteran depth, but how much have you seen, if any, Someone just leadership as well?
Yeah, I think Taco. He had a year last year that probably was beyond maybe expectations. I mean, the receiver part, just the productivity that he had. So out of that, I think his sense of who he was as a receiver, his confidence, I think was at a high level. He's a competitive guy. So now transitioning into being more of a leader on offense, not just in that receiver room, a leader on our team, I think has been evident in the offseason. And then for him, I mean, where's his area of growth? I think it's just being able to do more within our offense, to be able to line up as a single receiver, be able to line up in different spots. He was primarily in the slot for us this past year and doing similar types of things from one week to the next. So I think if we can expand what he's capable of doing, we can build upon his game and but going back to it, I think his leadership in that void, as much as the playmaking side, I think is where we need him to step up, and I think he has at this point.
Max Murphy, did he retire?
He did. Max is continuing on with his education here at Montana State, but he has left the team.
Anybody else that you can put me on the spot? That anybody else that?
Jaden Perkins as well from Bozeman. That was kind of midway through the off-season workouts. I think it was those two. I think so. They're putting me on the spot, but I think it was those two.
Yeah. And it looked like Jackson Hartman. Did he switch from corner to?
Yeah, we put Jackson back at free safety, and maybe more a natural position with his length. He has played corner. He has been, I think a value member of this team. He's primarily running the scout team. Jackson does have good size, can run. So, there was an opening, I guess, at the free safety position to put him back there and see what he could do. And I think a couple weeks in, I think it does suit him, and we'll see where it goes from there.
That corner position, are you comfortable with the guys you have? Do you need more depth, you think, by the time the season starts?
I think we'll have to see. I think that's a question that would be better asked at the end of spring ball. Meaning, I rattled off 4 guys. That's what we play with. So do we get to the end of spring ball and say those are our 4 guys? And we don't always play with 4. Sometimes we play with 3. And I suppose there's been a game or 2 here we've gone with just 2 guys. So I think that's a question that's out in front of us. I feel really good that the year before we said we're going to really recruit corner body types. We recruited 4. I mentioned 3 of them, and we have Brian Meredith in there too. I think we have Brian at free safety now. I think Brian's got some ability where he's got maybe nickel corner opportunity as well. And I think our mind is certainly open to potentially taking another defensive back of some sort as the school year finishes up.